A lot of people are currently wrapped up in all the early voting returns and seeing that there are massive swings in the GOP as compared to very low turnouts relatively to what they were expecting for the Democrats right now. But they are forgetting about the fact that mail-in ballots are probably corrupt. And we have a couple of instances on record, one that I've done a couple of videos on, which we should probably go back and revisit just to refresh everybody's memories. Massive voter fraud found in Minnesota. And this has to do, both of these stories have to do with what Project Veritas has done. And they've done some very excellent work that has, for some reason, gone criminally underreported. And I wonder why. It could be because they're exposing some real important shit here that nobody really wants to deal with right now, hey? So this one actually got taken up by Steve Drazkowski, a Republican out of Minnesota here. So Representative Steve Drazkowski announced he has uncovered evidence of massive systemic voter fraud in Minnesota. In an 11 a.m. press conference, Rep. Drazkowski will detail some of his findings. Now, this was in regards to Monday morning, September 28th, and saying that he uncovered evidence of massive systemic voter fraud is, kind of taking credit for shit that was already done on his behalf. But hey, if he's going to bring it to the forefront, by all means. Widespread voter fraud in Minnesota has always been suspected, but our election laws make it nearly impossible to catch the crooks after the fact, Drazkowski said. Now, new evidence clearly points to a culture of fraud, which has resulted in mountains of fraudulent ballots being cast and counted, possibly changing the outcome of several races. Exactly. And for those of you who don't remember, or I'll link to the other videos too, but I'll just give you a very, very condensed version of that. Ilhan Omar was running a voter fraud sting. She was the kind of godfather in this situation. She had a couple of guys out there who were willingly paying off people and as well going into seniors' towers and just harvesting the ballots. Now in Minnesota, you are only allowed to take a certain amount of ballots with you. And that's what ballot harvesting is. Ballot harvesting is collecting a massive amount of ballots and returning them to the polling station. Now, that sounds like it should be something that, oh, okay, good for, an ease of convenience. Like, okay, you live in a big family. 7 people are going to be voting in that family. Let's say 7 people are of a voting age. You're only allowed to take, I think it's either 3 or 5 per person. And you know what? That really does prevent fraud. If you think about it in a larger context, that there's no kind of compromised ballots at any time that could be, left without somebody's clear intent. Maybe they weren't totally filled out, and then some corrupt member of whoever's taking the ballots in would open up that ballot and maybe change something or make it null and void. Completely invalidate it, and therefore, vote for whatever Biden and let's just say Klobuchar. I'm not too sure if she's running, but I know that she's from Minnesota there. That would get tossed out, and the rest of your family who'd be normally voting for Trump could, just go ahead and, it's only 2 or 3 every once in a while, but what they uncovered there is Buddy was paying people off, had stacks of fat cash that was traced back to Ilhan Omar, and just a whole bunch of blank ballots on top that could be easily filled out because there's very, very lax standards when it comes to mail-in votes. In Minnesota, they don't really check any signatures, and it's more or less just going to be kind of a numbers game where they expect extreme turnouts, and you're seeing above average turnouts, but it's not these wall of turnouts that have been coming out when it comes to absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, and the like. So yeah, there was a sophisticated ring being run in Minnesota, and now we have a counterpart to that. And like I said, brought to you in part by the very, very important work being done by Project Veritas, Texas Attorney General to probe alleged election fraud scheme exposed by Project Veritas. Now, this is just a couple days old here, and the 18-minute video itself details this, a lump of shit right here, going up and down the road, collecting ballots and helping senior citizens fill them out and telling them to vote Democrat completely down the ballot. Yeah. Exactly. That is illegal to do, by the way, just in case you had any thoughts about this, and wasn't just merely Project Veritas going out of their way to try to uncover something that is, fine and just trying to slander people. They do good work. They do excellent work. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said his election fraud unit is investigating an organized election fraud scheme exposed by investigative journalism nonprofit Project Veritas. Well, at least Ken didn't try to take credit for what James O'Keefe has done. In undercover footage that appears to show a woman challenging and changing voters' ballots. In an 18-minute expose published October 27th, an undercover journalist tails a woman in San Antonio. In the footage, the woman, described by the nonprofit as a ballot chaser, can be seen attempting to switch an individual's vote towards the Democratic Party in Texas. And here is the quote in question. What's shown in the video is shocking and should alarm all Texans who care about election integrity. We are aggressively investigating the serious allegations of potential crimes that Project Veritas' documentary audio and video recordings shed light on today. Now, that's important because if they pursue this and they follow through on it, which I don't know if this guy's like a old school Republican or if he's kind of one of these actually do something and follow up on your word type Republican, it's tough to surmise. If there's anything that comes out of this, we're going to have precedent, and the claims of Project Veritas are finally going to be taken more seriously, which they should be because it is excellent work that they do. He added, "My office is fiercely committed to ensuring that the voter process is secure and fair in all Texas elections, a process that this video unfortunately casts a shadow of doubt on." And like, I don't know how many probably go back to fucking 2004. Oh, I don't know, it's Texas purpling? Are they going to flip now? And it's apparently closer than it's ever been right now. It's debatable, fucking debatable. It was supposed to flip in 2016, but there was no doubt. I think Trump won by double digits in Texas. And if you think anybody's inspired to vote Democrat based on what Biden's been doing lately, press X to doubt, folks. And it's different because Minnesota, there's a bunch of mayors out there in what they call the Iron Range in these traditionally Democratic areas. A bunch of mayors in that place have come out in full-throated support of President Trump. That is significant because if you remember, there's this old classic case in 1984 when Ronald Reagan was seeking his second term in office as president. He ran against Walter Mondale, and Walter Mondale won D.C. and Minnesota. Can't continue any further because he won D.C. and Minnesota. That's it. And it hasn't flipped for a Republican since, Richard Nixon swept hardcore, and it was Republican then, but it's definitely been since the 80s. I think it might have been just Nixon the last time, and that is, twice as old as I am at this point. So there's a significant chance, add on to that, all the riots. Well, that was the reason why the mayors came out in full-throated support for President Trump, mostly because of the riots and the fact that even though Joe Biden liked to say in the presidential debates that manufacturing hasn't come back, that's a big reason why they are supporting President Trump, because manufacturing is booming in that district and those areas as well. So yeah, so you're looking at a state that's very much in contention in Minnesota, and then you're looking at a state where you're probably just trying to hold off the wave of Californians and idiots, it's kind of redundant to say that, just flooding into the area. And eventually, I don't know, depends on how strong of a candidate 24 produces, maybe then, but don't anticipate it anytime soon, because wasn't old Beto O'Rourke supposed to kick Ted Cruz out of office, even though he had everybody and their mother stumping for him, just like a certain candidate this time around. LeBron James definitely had a Beto O'Rourke shirt on, I can definitely remember that, and they poured more money into that one single midterm election than any other race out there. And this was just at the cusp when Ted Cruz was starting to get a lot more popular. He was still kind of having to repair his image after the presidential primary race that Trump made him look quite stupid in. But yeah, Texas, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be in play. I think it's still going to be a double-digit win. But I've been wrong in other areas, but I'm pretty good with my political prognostications. But here we go. We'll get to the tits to this. The woman in the video said she was a consultant for Republican congressional candidate Mauro Garza, the challenger for U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro, but she was attempting to persuade voters to cast ballots for Garza and then vote for Democrats on the rest of the ballot. That really gets the old noggin jogging now, doesn't it? If I go to prison, I do not look cute in stripes. I will hate you forever, the woman said. You know, on here you chose a rep, not a Dem, right? Let me just show you how to do that, she continued. This is what she was doing. There was an elderly lady just off camera, which she was telling to fill out her ballot. Well, she was helping, I guess. This is what she called flipping people. She later explained, "You are not supposed to do that. I'll take 20 ballots here, 30 ballots here." She also said that she was bringing at least 7,000 ballots to the polls. That might be hyperbole, but that is not an insignificant number. And you have to think that if there's just this one moose, I think that's what MK stands for, right? I used to work at a jewelry store. I know what it means, you fuckers. She can't be alone in this. Absolutely, yeah. And this bowling ball with legs identified herself as Raquel Rodriguez in the video as well. She also penned a response letter to the organization describing herself as, oh, I'm sure this will be very flattering, dedicated community member committed to helping people help the undeserved people of San Antonio fill out their ballots correctly, and founder of San Antonio's Love Thy Neighbor voting squad. Anytime you hear squad and voting, I immediately get nauseous, which describes itself on its Facebook page as an independent and not affiliated or committed to a political party. Just when you're voting for a representative, you're a Republican, and then the rest of the ballot you vote Democrat. Just so it kind of obfuscates what you're trying to do here. Well, you can't say that we were buying ballots because look at clearly they made their own choices out there. There's Republicans on this and then there's Democrats on it too. Ain't that weird? Why would somebody vote completely one party down the ticket and then only have one dissenting view in one riding? Wouldn't you think, if you are a person who thinks a specific way on how you vote, if you vote based on the looks of a candidate, if you vote on, maybe you know the guy, maybe that's the reason why I have that one deciding opinion, but you gotta think that if you're going up and down the ballot and you know your shit, that's gonna look a little bit funny, hey? So yeah, I'm glad that old Ken there, he looks like a serious guy and he's gonna be pursuing this. Hopefully something comes of it, because I'm tired of seeing these Project Veritas exposés go completely underreported and, yeah, not reported whatsoever in a bunch of cases. Well, good news though. It looks like Project Veritas is taking some litigations into their own hands, because now they're going to be suing the New York Times, and it couldn't happen to nicer people. Because, so the New York Times was labeling Project Veritas as deceptive, a coordinated disinformation campaign, using solely unidentified sources and no verifiable evidence. Well, I think video evidence, video proof, and audio recordings are fairly verifiable if you assholes at the New York Times would get out of your ivory tower and off your cashmere-covered fists affixed to your chairs. You'd know what real journalism is, and, well, James O'Keefe and his group are clearly the only ones doing this. So yeah, this lawsuit just dropped today, and it's very, very powerful, and I wish them the best of luck, because, like I said, it couldn't happen to nicer people. But I thought you guys should know that. Don't forget about mail-in ballots being fraudulent, and I still think Trump's going to win by landslide anyways. So just if things start getting a little bit tighter later in the night, as soon as they start counting magical mail-in ballots that they found conveniently, just keep this in the back of your head. I thank you very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you guys to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.